This is Richard Fowler. I'm John Kilpatrick with Oklahoma Aikido, Louisville, Kentucky, USA. And we're looking at what I'm calling arm twist forms. And what we're interested in here is breaking the person's structure. And I'm interested in reflex control, and you have postural reflexes. And I think that when you're doing Aikido techniques, you want to be, the fundamental thing you should be doing is breaking the person's structure. And very frequently, people are throwing the person by inflicting pain, and the person has learned in Aikido class to fall down because of the pain. I have no aversion to creating pain, but you ought to know how to actually do the throw. And I'm just showing you the breaking structure part. Really, when I'm doing techniques, of course, we like to have a knife attacks. And when I'm doing this, I really want to do something to, now the breaking structure weakens your partner a lot. But I like to go further. I like to hit them first or something. So I'm not against all that, but here I want to show you about breaking structure. And if we were doing Nikkyo, when we started on Nikkyo, if he grabbed, not now, if he grabs my wrist, then we came here, and this is your basic Nikkyo, and we're stretching this out, and then maybe I could keep going there and drop him or come back into him. One form of Nikkyo is where instead of grabbing him here, I grab him here. So if he grabbed this hand and I did the Nikkyo, I would have this grip. If he grabs my other wrist and I do the Nikkyo, I end up here. And if you don't try to crunch the wrist, they don't call this Nikkyo. And I'm not crunching the wrist. So if I'm not crunching the wrist, maybe you wouldn't even consider this Nikkyo at all. Maybe you wouldn't consider it Aikido at all. I don't know. One thing that's nice about this catching it, the Nikkyo style grip, is that if he has a knife, in his hand and I have a standard Nikkyo grip, there's not much I can do to take the knife. But if I have the Nikkyo grip, then when I extend him out and drop him, so extend this out and take his structure. So if I take his structure here, it's easy for me to get the knife. He becomes weak. And he won't even really notice me taking the knife. So that's a big advantage of that kind of Nikkyo. Now what I want us to look at is another kind of Nikkyo, and that's, and on that one it would be like you would do, if you're doing your basic Nikkyo, basic beginner practice, you're in here somewhere, and what they tell you is bend the elbow about 90 degrees, bend the wrist 90 degrees, do all this stuff. And I'm going to say that none of that matters. That doesn't really have anything to do with breaking the guy's structure. That has to do with inflicting pain, and that's fine if that's what you want to do, but I think you should break his structure. And when they do this, usually they're just standing here, and they're breaking everything that I consider a rule about breaking structure. So their feet are usually lined up here. I mean, you're back some so that he can't kick you in the groin or something, but you're really still on a line with the line of attack, with the line with his feet, and you're just standing here crunching him down. So what we're going to do, the way I like to do this, if say he grabbed my lapel or something. Now, you'll come back here and try to get him off balance, but it's still really hard to reach over for me. For me to reach over and turn his hand over like it's normally taught, I find very difficult to do. And so what I like to do is grab his arm, grab it from the bottom, from the little finger side, and just grab here. And it's kind of like a Shianagi grip, except it's reversed. And this is much easier for me. And so when I do this throw, I want to go at right angles to his line of attack. I don't want to stay on this line. So let's back up a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. And so to do this, I'm going to extend this arm out and rotate it and then drop on it all in one motion. And this, there's no pain in this. And a lot of times, really, when somebody throws you this way, you just fall and you don't really understand why you fell. It's not doing anything. And certainly, if you're used to falling from pain, this isn't creating pain. Now, like I say, if you can do these motions and also inflict pain at the same time, that's wonderful. But right now, I think it's worth learning how to do this so that your partner just falls down before they realize anything's happening. So the technique looks like this. And that's all there is to that. And I'm putting pressure. I don't want to drop his hand. This is the same thing we talked about with Ikkyo and Shihonagi that we've already done. You know, if you come here and drop his hand like this, it doesn't work. It's his shoulder that drops. So when I'm doing this, I'm lowering my body onto, now I have to be moving, but I'm lowering my body onto his shoulder. I'm keeping the hand up. And you can do this also to the rear, and so stand with your feet this, yeah, like that. So if we're like this, when I do this, I'm going to bring this around, and that's the throw from the rear. And a lot of times you'll see that, you know, usually like if somebody is, if you've caught, when you're doing this to the rear, you know, you've caught this and you're coming around and he's coming around trying to strike with your other hand, with his other hand. And what they're trying to do is get this and create pain and stop him from coming with the pain. It's a whole lot easier just to break his structure and throw him. And it's very, very fast. It's much faster, it's much easier. And so this is what I'm recommending with Ikkyo. So this has to be smooth, with Nikkyo. You don't want to be on this line just because it's hard to pull the guy. You know, he's in his strong line. If I try to pull on Richard here, it doesn't work. Whereas if I take him to his front or to his rear, it works. This is done smoothly so that I'm twisting this and then I'm dropping on his other upper arm as I stretch him out, and it causes him to fall. So those are your basic principles. You have the three elements in breaking structure. That is, you have an extension, a rotation, and a drop.